welcome to the Pricemaster Podcast. We're going to have a chat about the Pricemaster's origin story, how they started it, how it got together. We've got Reed, the CEO, Ed, the lead dev, and Nick, the commercial manager. We're going to start with a quick summary of what Pricemaster is, because I don't know. I'm looking to find out, as well as all the listeners, and go from there, really. I don't know if someone wants to open up with, in a nutshell, what it is, and then we can go from there in a bit more detail.
It's a pricing strategy tool to protect margins and hopefully make you way more money.
Okay. For
e-commerce businesses, but there's also a brand solution, so brands can monitor their marketplace and their products and make sure that people aren't devaluing their products publicly. Okay. So, and just keep an eye on what's going on in the marketplace.
Whilst also maximizing profits and sort of making as much margin out of it as much as you can, really.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and get into sharing your journey to get to this point, the challenges you've had along the way. I think it'd be useful for everyone at home and myself just to get a quick overview of your roles inside the business. I know I've briefly read them off there, but Nick, I don't know, as the commercial manager, what exactly your responsibilities are? Just bringing the cash in, or?
No, well, it's an amalgamation of a lot of different roles, I suppose. But so we all started out under a company called Select Trade Brands, which runs a number of different websites.
Okay.
And essentially from there, the commercial side of it was, I started out as doing a lot of the purchasing.
Okay.
And then we realized very quickly that we needed to figure out, profits, margins, everything like that, and how to connect the departments as well. So my role connects the departments with each other and make sure they're all talking and
scale us up as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you came from a much bigger company doing light bulbs.
It was a light bulb specialist, or e-commerce, but also was bought out by a manufacturer.
Right.
So I started out in e-commerce and then I moved into the product manager side of.
So it's quite a bit of marketing as well, is it?
Yeah.
But digital and ads and websites.
Exactly. So combining it all together.
And then the sales on the back end.
We're quite a small company, so it's a little bit of everything, to be fair.
Yeah. Like it is in all small businesses, everyone has to put their hand in everything.
Sometimes, it's great as well, because every single day is a slightly different, nuanced version of your job. So, if someone's on holiday and there's no one else to pitch in, then you have to sort of...
We jump in.
Jump in and do that.
I can relate to it massively, obviously, as a small business owner myself. But I enjoy that. I think when you get into a big business, you can be stuck in such a one-size-fits-all structure, can't you?
100%.
Do this process because this process is being done by 8 other people in the country and blah, blah, blah.
You start to get a little bit lost in essentially the workplace as well. And some people even get a bit disenfranchised because they don't realise the value of themselves in the business.
The one thing's for sure is there's something different every day.
Yeah.
As you're growing anyway and scaling and doing everything else.
And what about yourself, Ed?
Okay, so like you're saying, something different every day is great because... every day is different for me. I mean, I started obviously working for Select Trade Brands as well, and as a developer. But what that means is really just like helping out with the website, day-to-day sort of bits and bobs like that. But it grew very rapidly, quite quickly.
But it needed a lot of work, didn't it?
Yeah, so kind of like
Magento.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, we won't go into Magento today. For obvious reasons. For anyone that is listening, that is a developer, they will understand. But I mean, I kind of grew to like full stack sort of development. So that means everything from the front end that you see on the websites to the server level application layer to the database layer to the server level itself. So luckily within me, all encompassed is all of those disciplines.
Yeah, okay.
And
but he's the brains of the operation.
He's an absolute magician when it comes to it. How many languages do you know?
27 programming languages.
It's unbelievable. And he started out before he came to us, as he was running his own business as well of a developer business, which helps him integrate with us because he knows how a business is
run a business.
Really,
but can I just say, the only reason why I didn't want to do that anymore is because actually I was pulled away from the programming side and doing more like the paperwork, the invoicing, the whatever else.
As you grew it,
So
your passion was the development, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had some time out. And then I got a message from Reed, and I said, I'll swing by and see, because there was a sort of a gap for someone to come over and help out.
That was proper random as well.
And that was way before Pricemaster as well. Yeah. So obviously this kind of
in the core business.
So Trade Counter Direct, which was sort of a main part of Select Trade Brands, started 15 years ago. Select Trade Brands is 40 years old and has its own plumbing brand and then lots of e-commerce brands within it. But when I first joined to do the e-commerce side, Ed was working for a company called CreatorNet.
Yeah.
And was the first guy I was working with to develop the very first version of the website 15 years ago.
Many years ago, yeah.
And then I randomly, we unfortunately lost a member of our team. And I thought, I haven't spoke to you for years, just randomly called up and said, hoping that he could put me in contact with a developer or someone. And it just so happened that he was getting ready to quit the business side, wanted to jump back into the dev side.
Perfect.
And and it worked out perfectly.
So, well, actually, I think I actually would like to do something like that.
Yeah, because I didn't think Ed was going to be.
You didn't think he'd be interested?
I didn't. Yeah, because I knew he was running his own business.
He's too high up already. Yeah.
I think actually you asked me, do I know of anyone?
Yeah.
And I did say,
well,
me.
Yeah,
basically.
And I was like, yes, 100%.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously that worked really well. So I mean, mainly my sort of area is the development of it all. So
the brains of it all.
Yeah.
See, I would disagree with that. I wouldn't say it's the brains of it all, because the brains of it, if you look at it from a programmatical perspective, then yeah, fine, the brains behind the scenes, but the brains or the idea of the whole project is not mine.
No, okay.
Well, I think this is where
that's a nice lead on.
Yeah.
This is where we work well as a team. Is there's the commercial side, me and Nick, and then because we know what we want to achieve and what we have to achieve, but we don't have the skills to build the tools to do it.
Totally.
So when Ed joined, we were like, well, actually, he can hear all of our this is a nightmare. I wish we could do that. And then when you've got someone in the corner who says, well, I could sort this out.
Yeah.
Then it sort of
I do try my best to always say
there's a way
yes
around it.
and never say no.
Yeah.
So if there is a problem that comes up, I always try to say, yep, here's a solution, or here's a way of doing it.
You have to be a bit like that, don't you? Because you're creating something that doesn't exist a lot of the time.
You do.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there that will say no, that can't be done, but there is always a way.
Yeah.
You'll always say, nah, there's got to be a
It's a bit of a trifecta, isn't it? Because you've got the person that creates the software, the person with the ideas of how the software works, and the person that would translate it all together so that you can connect to the dots and say if it works.
Classic, like Apple and Steve Wozniak.
Nick is what I would class as like the glue sometimes, or I don't know if that's really the right word, but the go-between.
And then you're like, well, is that going to work within the business, and what other parts of the business is it going to affect?
Yeah.
To go, yeah, that's good, or that doesn't. So a lot of the time, we'll have a discussion within the office, and then, if all three of us agree, it's a great idea. We'll run with it. But if there's a question mark, then we say, well, hold on a second, let's figure that one out. And how is that going to work? Because, and
that's how it happens normally. Someone will say something, and then someone will jump in.
Or what if you did this?
And then it just suddenly escalates.
We're good at making compromises as well, because at the moment it's running in so much that Reed and Ed are sort of pushing Pricemaster forwards. And I'm helping the e-commerce side thing, but when it brings it in, all the Pricemaster's work will affect the e-commerce stuff. So then I'll pop in and say, look, this is the issue that we're facing in here because of the Pricemaster software. Let's rework it, move it forwards, and then they go and figure it out, get it implemented, and that's the next. In terms of beta development and beta testing, effectively we're doing it.
Well, we're running two businesses.
You know, because you've almost created it for yourself.
That's exactly.
But then there's
why
also
we did
people
it.
like
That's
you.
an important point to get onto, I think, later on.
Okay.
Yeah, we because we're running Select 8 brands, which is just under 10 million. Lots of 100,000 SKUs.
Yeah, something like that.
And just for the listener, you sell tools,
power tools, hand tools, plumbing tools,
and that many SKUs is just that many different products.
Yes,
yeah, great.
So we've just sort of scaled up to
through 65 different brands as well.
Great,
and not just Trade Counter Direct. So then there's 4 or 5 other sites. So we have a workwear site, a Hikoki Power Tools Direct website. We have building material websites. So all of these sites, lots of SKUs, lots of pricing.
So it's not just the tools; you also have materials as well.
Yeah,
sure.
Right. Okay.
But you don't really want to confuse that with
Pricemaster.
Yeah.
No,
so this was the mess that we were running.
Yeah.
And the scaling, growing company.
Yeah.
And the problems we were having were, our pricing. We could, if a price went up, we were manually was just impossible.
Yeah.
And we tried other tools.
And the price goes up from your supplier.
Yeah. So you get a deal one week, and then the price goes up 10% the next. And if the system doesn't know that, you just sell at 10% loss.
Yeah.
But to bring it back a little bit, what do you do?
Yeah, sorry, we
digress. Yeah.
Well, we missed your overview of yourself.
Tools.
Yeah. I talk too much. So started Trade Counter Direct 15 years ago, but that was part of Select Trade Brands, which was started by my old man 40 years ago, as a plumbing brand that goes into wholesales, goes into big like B&Qs.
He brought it over from America, didn't he? Like the initial first product.
Yeah, well, we lived in the States and then came over here, and it was importing American products and selling them. And I kind of did that as a kid growing up, helped the family business, but then...
In the warehouse and stuff like that? Or?
In the warehouse, well, it was in our garage originally. Nice. And then joined the company after I went to college and uni and the rest of it. And I was selling on eBay and then started selling tools and started Trade Counter Direct, spoke to Ed. I created it. And then developed Trade Counter Direct 15 odd years ago, and now it's just scaled and and grown from 10 products to 100,000 products.
And the initial product we're still selling
today.
Well, the first ever product.
The first ever product that
what is that?
Reed's granddad.
Superfire 2, Rothenberger Superfire 2.
What is it?
Reed's dad brought into the business. It's a mini strip.
Oh, the mini strips. Yeah. Which is an abrasive. It's just a waterproof abrasive.
Oh, okay.
Did you notice that? The way he said waterproof. Waterproof.
There's it.
He is actually American.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
In America till I was 8.
So you were born over there?
I was born in England
and
then went back to America, lived there till I was 8, and then we came back.
Right, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Really interesting journey you're going on. Let's go back to where you were just started talking about how the company grew and tell us a bit more about that.
So, we started off a small team, and basically we're just one of those companies that was like, there's an idea, let's do that. That's a good brand. And we just built relationships after relationships and just grew to the point where the scale side of it was impossible. Too many things were falling over. We couldn't manage our pricing properly. We couldn't manage our stock properly. We grew too big too fast. And basically...
At the end of the month, we were doing like analysis of the SKUs and how they sold because we got that data. But it was only after the event, like almost a month later, we look at it and go, well, that product didn't make us any money or that lost margin because...
That's where Nick came in,
from your suppliers. It doesn't matter that they just move their price as they want.
Well, if you're dealing with 500 suppliers or whatever it is, you just can't keep the eyes on everything. And it was just, there was too much moving and we just couldn't handle it. And when Nick joined and was doing the commercial side, we'd look at it and go, we're turning over all this money. It's great. And then you go, where's the profit?
Yeah. And then we started with Google Sheets and we get our costs and then we'd do it again. It was like once a week or once a month. Reed and I would get together and we'd try and figure out, the cost price here, let's get some good margins. And we created a little calculator that would move some things up on a Google Sheet. But then we'd have to export that and then import it into Magento, and then another site.
And let's just say the Magento is actually the website, the technology behind it. It is crap
for trade.
Can I just get that on record?
We've struggled with Magento. To be open, we've got 5 sites on Shopify, which we work well with.
Yeah,
and then the big behemoth is Trade Counter Direct on Magento, which. It's got us to where we are, but it is difficult to deal with.
I did tell him many years ago not to go down the Magento route. Yeah. And he went, thanks, Ed, and went the other way. That's why we didn't speak for many years.
And so Pricemaster, you sort of made it for yourself originally.
Yeah.
Before you even decided you were going to take it elsewhere, or?
Well, so we got to the point where we grew so much, so we had to find a tool, and we went and used other tools on the market, which are still available.
They
exist already.
And they were good. Yeah. But they weren't...
And what's that called? Like, what's the name of that? It's a procurement tool.
It's like dynamic pricing. It's a dynamic pricing tool.
Yeah. And it was good, but it didn't do everything that we want. We kept on having to go back to them and say, could you do this? Or could you do that? Yeah. And they were using our ideas to bake into their software, weren't they, as well?
And to be fair, those tools, if you're at their size, you can't run a business without something like that, in my mind.
No. But you've lived that yourself. You've got the turnover.
We had to. And as soon as we jumped to having a dynamic pricing tool, it did help the business without a doubt.
Yeah.
But we were struggling that margins weren't getting better. Sometimes it would make you too competitive. It would be a race to the bottom. It wouldn't necessarily be trying to get you more money. And we wanted to be really granular on what little tests we wanted to do. So we had so many products. We want to do a little bit on this brand, a little bit on this category, and it just got to the point where it was messy.
Yeah.
It was unmanageable.
Sounds
at certain points as well.
Yeah. So Ed joined the team, and we were like, okay, this is still a problem. You kind of done a bit of work already.
What for?
On sort of on big databases and stuff like
that.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, back in the day, you know, I was doing like loads of work on big data, that sort of stuff. So I guess that kind of helped. But it's always lovely for a programmer to start a project from the ground up. And you know, when I started it with Reed, that I had inherited obviously this Magento project, which you know is some.
This is the early like prototype phase. At this stage,
this is still Trade Camera.
This is even kind of before.
This is not this company.
But then being given almost on a plate to say, right, you know, here's a problem. Let's solve it from the ground up. We actually had built another system beforehand, Stockmaster, which we can talk about another day.
Coming soon.
But so it's kind of born out of that a little bit. It's like an extension of that, but it became its own.
Just to jump in at that point is that we also had the reason for the Stockmaster platform was we were running the business through connections between our ERP and the website, but it wasn't fluid. Like, and also all of the different.
We're using a lot of terms, which I think are gonna
for me and for the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
ERP.
It's the software that controls the business. So I don't know what it stands for. ERP. It was the one that has the stock. It has all the products on. It has all the sales, the purchase orders.
Yeah.
So it controls the business.
To a layman, it's like a warehouse CRM system.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But there was no connections. We were trying to get suppliers with their stock feeds in and prices.
Trying to feed that into outside providers.
It wouldn't take it into this particular software. Yeah. So we needed something else to hold that, and then the connections from the software to move into that. So we were running all that through Google Sheets. And it was falling over left, right, and center.
Just data everywhere, no central place.
Yeah,
and
it was tough to manage, and that's where then when Ed came on board, is that we were like, here's the problem. Yeah. Dumped it all on his plate.
Here's 15,000 Google Sheets.
I actually remember on my very, very first day that Nick came up to me with this massive
A3 sheet.
Yeah, it was A3, I think, and he'd drawn out all of this stuff and all these ancillary parts that kind of connect to it. And he was like, "This is how it all runs.
This is how the business runs."
And I was like, "What the?" But
you know, in a visual, like a drawing.
No, I did like a diagram of like you had the order-wise, which is our center ERP, and then how each connection of how it runs a different website and what connections go in between hands and what Google Sheet goes.
There was a lot of info in just that.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
but it was overwhelming.
If you were going to start a business, you'd never plan it that way. And if you did, you'd be an idiot.
Like make it work, sort of thing.
Yeah. But when a business grows, you just keep clunking things on, and then another thing grows, and then suddenly you end up with this big mess.
But we're always yes people, aren't we? We're like, you come up with an idea, and we're like, yeah, it's a really good idea. How do we get it to work? Or well, let's figure it out, and then if it's working, just leave it.
At this stage, you're just creating a system for
trade, for select trade,
for trade, and then from there, you get to a point where you realize you've created something that's really valuable for other people.
Yeah.
So,
and then you move to a prototype, or is the prototype where it exists?
There was
the whole time really is a prototype. It was a prototype for us
before it was Pricemaster.
I mean, there's been so many different iterations of it, and it has grown a lot over time. The whole project itself was a prototype, but it's now ready for release.
Well, internally we called it loads of different things, and it was just something that helped us do what we needed to do. And then I think one day we must have gone, this is valuable, not just to our industry, but to anyone with a website, anyone with lots of stock, anyone with lots of SKUs, and who wants to make more money, essentially.
But we're also looking at the profit and loss and seeing the gross margin jump. Like if it's going up and up and up, and we've only changed really one thing, then it's Pricemaster.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at it going, geez, this is really doing something quite special, And so then it starts to become that conversation is like, right, okay, so we need to make sure that it's started to develop with other people in mind as well. So that's when Ed started working on, and we had to think slightly outside the box.
When you see other people that might be like you, but slightly different.
Exactly. Other companies that not just within our space in terms of power tools, but also in other categories. Like how can we build this for us, but to be used by anybody in the world that has an e-commerce website that wants to make more money?
And the thing is that if you call it the prototype phase, like when we were building it, is you have a product, but it's very, very specific and niche to Trade Counter Direct. We've got a lot of things which just pull in Trade Counter Direct elements, like certain bits about products and stuff like that. So what we actually have to do to make it more commercial is to take some of those things out and standardize it a lot more, because then that way it works for the masses. So we had to take a lot of those bits out. There's elements which, for example, like you'll have like custom attributes to each product, and then you might want to actually apply tags and information to that, so the pricing works differently.
We had to kind of dumb it down a little bit.
We had to dumb it down a little bit.
We got the back end Pricemaster for us was ground up and complex. And then when we realized the concept is a product in itself that could help anyone, we're like, okay, let's clean this up, make it plug and play.
That's exactly what it is, really. I mean, that's a great word for it, because plug and play with Shopify, plug and play with Magento, plug and play with WooCommerce.
Isn't complex and bespoke like what you've done for your own business. It's an equivalent of that.
We've done all the complicated, stressy parts, and now we've made it it should be simple. You install it from the Shopify app. It pulls in your products, and then you're off to the races pretty quickly.
But we've been building this over the course of the year. So Trade Counter Direct
2 years.
2 years, sorry, and then so we've been building it over the last 2 years, and we've been the tester of it. So we've been having real world data constantly with feedback constantly.
Every issue that could come up, we've dealt with personally.
And do you have to be a middleman, or can it be stock based? Like if you have your own stock,
we have a product for that, but we're not here to talk about
something
that.
different.
Okay, that'll have to be the next one that we come.
My next question is which is obviously off topic, but just interested to ask is the size of addressable market for you.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what that looks like? I know it's not necessarily here to discuss that, but I just have interest.
Well, Shopify, I think I looked at a stat. There's like 5 million UK websites that do over £1 million in transactions.
Really? Over £1 million?
Yeah.
But that could be from their own stock, right?
From their own stock, yeah. But this is for anyone who's got a website with doing anything.
But the beauty of it as well, we were talking about this earlier, is that let's say you're Gymshark, okay, and you have gym products, but yours not. It's very similar to Under Armour products. You have manual matching. That's it. Yeah. So you have manual matching. You can choose your T-shirt. It's not the same T-shirt because it doesn't match on GTIN or the EANs or the barcode or whatever. Well, you then can tag in and say, I want to choose it against that Gymshark product against that Under Armour product.
Yeah.
And then if that keeps
price goes down, you can move that to
exactly. Or the price moves up, you can keep it. So don't undervalue
the price
your
match
products.
doesn't necessarily have to be based on a third party supplier.
No,
it can be against a competitor.
Yes. So
most of it is.
So the overall sort of picture is that you've got an online store with your products.
Yeah.
You type in your competitors. So whatever you think your competitors are, you type in their URLs. We scrape all of their data on a daily basis, pull that into Pricemaster, and then you use that data to make a pricing strategy on where you should be on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So if your competitor's price goes up, your price goes up. If it goes down, you can follow.
And that's one facet of Pricemaster, and then there's another facet that will protect you on your cost of product if it's from a supplier.
So your minimum margin protection.
And all that finishes. That's all under the Pricemaster.
Yes,
that does all of that.
I mean, you could do an analogy with this. Unfortunately, it's an Exeter City mug.
Yeah,
but I sell Exeter City mugs. Okay, I buy them in for £2.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sell it for under £2. I want to sell it for at least £3.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it on Pricemaster, but now I want to make sure I'm competitive in the market and I'm getting the most profit that I possibly can.
Yeah.
I'm going to look for other retailers that sell football mugs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to match my mug to that. And then I'm going to see like Moonpig, I'm going to see other people, and I'm going to say, oh, hang on, they're selling football mugs for £4.
Yeah.
So I'm going to price mine at $3.99. I'm going to be a penny under, but that way,
you're cheaper.
I was going to sell it £3. Now I'm going to sell it $3.99. So I'm making more money for nothing.
Yeah. And also then Pricemaster, you can say, right, well, I'm selling a lot at £4. What happens if I go to £5?
Yeah.
And you can basically just keep testing to find your sweet spot.
Yeah.
So you're not just bottom.
But also at the same time, if the supplier of that cup changes its base cost
to £4, your price goes up.
Changes your price.
Your price automatically goes up.
So that's the minimum margin
protection.
Yeah. So that's like
your both of those things.
Yeah, it's your baseline
really
foundation. Yeah. So no matter what, you will always have your minimum margin protection.
Wow.
And then all the dynamic pricing is trying to get margin above there. But if your cost goes up, you're
not
always
a static
protected.
minimum margin by, just a flat rate. It's not like one field. You can choose it by brand. You can choose it by products,
category.
You don't if you want to make 5% on that, but you want to make 30% or 50% or 100% margin on something else, you can choose that dynamically.
So you've got your minimum margin that protects, you've got your dynamic margin that finds your margin, but then you've got your dynamic tags, which basically allows you to segment whatever size of products and just do tests on those segments.
Okay. Very interesting. I feel like I totally get it now.
Okay, yeah. So it is a bit complicated.
I think there's about 4 or 5 different ways we tried to explain it, and I've been sat there quietly thinking, right, let's use a mug.
As a non-technical small business owner, there's 2 core offerings that the Pricemaster does. It will compare you against competitors and allow you to automatically price against them. What it'll also do is consistently keep you updated on your base cost from suppliers and allow you to either automatically move your price up or down based on that. And do that at a huge scale with thousands of products.
That's right.
On a daily basis.
Every day.
How many did you say? I think we talked about earlier. Since we started, how many price changes do you think we've made on the Trade Counter website in the last year?
In the tens of millions.
Yeah.
If you think it's doing 75,000 potentially a day, times that by 2 years, it's doing a lot. That would be impossible to do without Pricemaster.
We had a competitor within our space actually go into liquidation or into administration recently, and they went down with a lot of debt. But what we realised is that in the space there was a race to the bottom, and like Reed said a number of times before, is that they won. So.
Unfortunately.
Not the race you want to win.
What we realised, and Reed has spoken to a number of people in the industry, and that they had a team of people. I think it was 15
people
that were
running pricing on a daily basis.
Manually.
They'd come together on a meeting. They would discuss the pricing. They'd then go away and change pricing. And they had a similar number of products, if not more products on our website.
So they might still be running actually if they're using Pricemaster, because one, they just wouldn't have gone bust, and 2, they would have saved on 14 people's wages. People's wages.
They wouldn't have been cheap either. They would have been 30 grand a year people.
On that topic, obviously AI is very topical at the minute. Is Pricemaster... I think with technology these days, like you can attach AI to anything, can't you? Pretty much. Is there AI in the tech, or does it need to be in it? Is it not relevant?
With the data that we're collecting, AI will be a bigger and bigger part as we go on, because just the more data, the easier it is to manage with AI.
Yeah.
At the minute, we're doing an AI margin miner, which is a strategy tool that will go out and it will test the market. So let's say it's this one particular product. It'll put the price up for 3 or 4 days and see who follows. So it'll test who else has got pricing tools. Once they follow you up, it will then match that price. So essentially, it's out there mining margin, essentially trying to get the whole market up. And you can test this forever on a granular level.
Scale.
Yeah. So you could just say, well, I only want to test it on 10 of these products, see how it goes.
And can I just jump in? This is why it's such a good tool for retailers, because rather than it being a race to being the cheapest to sell, which is kind of like what Amazon is, you're actually racing upwards and you're trying to increase margin for people. So all retailers are actually going to gain more money and more revenue using this tool.
While we're still on the topic of what it is you guys do and how you do it, I'd love to just do a very quick use case. So I've got a friend who has a sports merchandise business. They're in Exeter, turnover, I think I'm guessing an estimate between 3 and 5 million. Lots of stock on site, everything from trainers to hoodies, like sportswear predominantly.
Is it their own brand or is it other brands?
It's their own. So no, it's the middleman.
Yeah.
So they also have the license for all merchandise for the Premier League's. I forget the terminology, but like teacups, hats, scarves, souvenirs, basically.
Yeah.
They have the license for the Premier League. Yeah. Now they do a lot of stuff with suppliers, but a lot of stuff they buy in bulk and then they resell it, etc. I think as a real use case, they could use both tools inside Pricemaster to benefit them.
100%.
Yeah.
So it would manage their minimum margin
really
again, and then we would find who else is selling those products and bring that information in, so they know where they sit.
Yeah.
But also there's another thing that we can do is you can set multiple rules on products. So if you've got stock in the warehouse that you're overstocked, you might want to sell a bit more aggressively. So you can tag certain stocks. Say we're overstocked on this. Let's apply a more aggressive rule. But then when the stock starts to deplete and you haven't got much left, you want to put the price up. So then you can put a different tag on that.
Essentially a run rate. So if you're selling faster and the run rate goes up, you want to slow it down and get more profit out of that.
Yeah, you might want to slow it down, get the margin until the stock comes back in, and then when the stock comes back in, you can switch again. So
you
you're
have different motivators.
fluid.
So your motivator could be low stock to slow down, but it also could be
speed
demand.
up.
So it's your demand is increased, and so you think the price should increase.
Yeah. But what we also have as well is
really interesting.
Is to also
and that's done automatically.
Yeah,
automatically.
And this is through the dynamic tags that we've got as well. So we also feed in the age of the stock. So if something's really, really old and it's gone over a year,
we can be more aggressive.
We can say, well, actually, we're happy to go under the cost price. We remove the minimum margin and say, actually, let's bring the cost under the cost, because clearly we haven't been doing enough behind the scenes to buy better or buy cheaper, and the market slowly moved down.
Into cash.
We want to turn it back into cash, exactly. Then we're happy to move that faster. Then when it comes back in, all the dynamic tags figure stock's new. That margin goes into a different rule category. Therefore, it makes more money.
Yeah, just that case in particular, I think the price comparison stuff is really interesting. If they sell a trainer online, which they do a lot of, and they are wanting to price compare, and that's just a really powerful tool, as well as the other stuff as well.
And the other thing is that they can still be the cheapest if they wanted to be the cheapest, but they might find that actually against all the competitors that they have on Pricemaster, they can raise their price and still be the cheapest.
And does it consider like delivery and stuff? Because delivery is quite a big variable, isn't it, for different companies?
So this isn't something that's actually built in yet, but what we'll probably do in the early term is just have static figures for delivery prices. So that can be set within like the main admin area.
Yeah.
But then through time, we can feed that in.
To that or whatever,
Yeah. What we will be doing though is, which is already built in, is let's say it's Black Friday and you want to do like a weekend deal, is you can assign a rule for the weekend, and then when the weekend ends,
stops.
It goes back to what it was.
But it's a dynamic changing rule set. So you'll have as many rules as you want, and it's prioritized from the bottom up. So if you want to say Black Friday is the most important rule, then you put it at the very top, and it's the last to run. Everything will then drop down.
So we can stack 1 million rules on top of each other.
Yeah. So that then, by the time you got to the end, like certain products, if you want them to suddenly sit into a different rule set, whether it's, high stocked or low stocked or a certain brand or age of the stock, all sorts of different iterations. Or if you want to be a bit more aggressive on something that you're buying in or direct shipments, then, you can also add all these rules in. You can just keep it's unlimited number of rules and it will figure out by product. Every single product will run through all the rules. Am I right in saying that, Andy? Mm-hmm. So they'll run all through all the rules, product by product. So it's not like here's all the data, but it's just supremely fast, supremely clever on that.
And I was going to sort of ask, really, when the eureka moment was. I'm assuming that it was someone taking the claim and the fame for that someone went, oh, actually, we need to be offering this to other clients. Were you sat around having coffee? Was it breakfast?
I think it was probably a gradual thing. We were using it, and for me, I was just like, "This is better than anything we've paid for in the past, by a long shot."
Right. Do you know what? I don't even know the exact day or time when you actually switched it on and started using it for TCD.
I guarantee you that it would have come from Reed, because Reed spends a lot of time listening to podcasts, business podcasts and stuff like that. And it's all, he comes in the next day and he'll say, I've just listened to this great AI podcast. We talk about it. And just probably in the conversation, it would be like, well, hold on, what we've got is pretty good, and then we talk about it a bit more, and then it'd be from that.
But for a long period, it was just, we want it to work as well as it possibly can for us.
Yeah, that was the goal, right?
And then we probably had a bit of time to breathe when it was doing it well, and we thought, actually, maybe we should share this with other people.
Yeah. Well, and so it's really interesting. And then the challenges that come along the way, you've obviously had security, scalability, Shopify integration. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in particular of the challenges that you really want to talk about? Just to communicate to show the value of what you do.
The Shopify thing has been new for us.
Shopify integration was new, but actually, once you get your head around it, it's okay. from my perspective, there's many challenges that arise, and 70% of them I will never even mention to Reed or Nick. I'll just get on and try and overcome them. What's the point of mentioning it to them? You know, that's my area. I need to figure these things out
on those technical bits. You could tell us, and we go,
yeah, and then it's a wasted discussion. It's a waste of time. I may as well just crack on and get it done. So really, from my perspective, the only main challenges is like server scalability. Obviously, I've got to look to the future, how we're going to make sure that this still runs nice and quickly when it's rolled out and there's more and more people onboarding. And the security aspect, which I can't go into because otherwise everyone would know how to break into it. So,
well, actually, one of the challenges that we faced before Pricemaster existed was probably what created Pricemaster in itself.
Yeah, that was
because I think we were looking at
that was our real challenge.
We were looking at it going, these people, why are they selling so low? Like, if they just had Pricemaster, look at us, you know, we're making all this money, and you know, if they just had Pricemaster, and we're like, well, why don't we offer it to them?
Well, this is one thing that we can see. So we can see all of the market data like every single day for the last 60 days.
And can you see what they're selling though? Because you can see the price, but can you see like how many they've sold?
No. We can't see how many they've sold. We can see if they're in or out of stock. So if they're out of stock, obviously we don't want to price against them. Yeah. So if they're out of stock, Pricemaster knows they kind of disappear.
Wow.
If they're in stock, then we can see if they put their price up on Friday, we know. And if it went back down on Monday.
You're looking at that data going, look, if that person knew what we knew.
Exactly. So we can almost build a business case for them and say, well, listen, you're 3% lower than the entire market. Why are you 3% lower?
Also, one thing I was going to mention earlier is that one of the amazing parts and the key selling points for Pricemaster is that it snaps the price up to the next competitor as well. It doesn't leave you hanging in the middle.
No.
So positionally, you've got first position on Google, second, third, fourth, let's say.
And we've labelled that competitor creep, TM.
Yeah. So let's say someone's 50 quid and then someone's 40 quid and there's no point you being 45 quid because if they're not going to buy from this person, they're going to buy from you next, then you might as well be at the 50 quid mark because you're not competing. It's like an arbitrage of profit. Wasted profit. Yeah. People leave on the table and they'll just be static.
They're blissfully unaware.
None of the other pricing tools that we worked at did that. It would work out a percentage and then just leave you in the middle of something there. And
so if your minimum margin was 20%, it would just bottom you at 20%. But if the market was at 25%, it wouldn't creep you back up to that 25%.
So get the wastage. Yeah. Really interesting. And is version 1 launched now? It's
very close. So the e-commerce side is about to launch.
Yeah, this is so there's two sides really. We've not even really touched upon that yet. There's a retail side for like e-commerce stores like Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, and then there's a brand side. Which is for suppliers. So, and that kind of is, but Reed can obviously go into that now. But
so that's more. It's the same data, but instead of us doing dynamic price changes, this is to put it into the brand's hands. So if you've spent forever building a product, you put it into the market, and then everyone just bottoms it out, and you lose the value of that product. Then it's very hard to get the prices back up, and online is a nightmare. You know, people just bottom out. So this tool for brands gives them alerts. So if they say that our RRP price is 60 quid, if everyone starts going down, they'll get alerts to say this particular reseller has dropped the price. So you can see who dropped it first, who's the bad players, and then it gives the brands the opportunity to go and say, well, for a start, your price is pretty low. You can't fix pricing, but you can decide who you sell to and who you don't sell to.
Totally.
So this is like a brand solution. It doesn't have the automation, but it uses all the data that we collect and puts it into the brand's hands.
Yeah, it gives them an opportunity to just look at the market and see what the market is doing, really. And like Reed said, it's 100% not price fixing.
No,
but it just gives them an overview of what the market is doing. Because a lot of brands just supply the products and don't really know. Some don't even care so much until it becomes too late. Whereas actually at this point, you can say, well, okay, is the person, they can then send the rep into the company and says, is this person genuinely a trade counter, or is it genuinely a shop, or is it someone in the bedroom just trying to make a few bucks off our products that we spent years manufacturing and developing.
Yeah.
So do you want to work with this person? Do you not want to work with this person?
And also stock-wise, so you can figure out who's out of stock. So if you're a brand and someone goes out of stock, you can send your sale guy in and say, they need this product. We know that they're out of stock. So it's like a proactive way.
Yeah.
And also gap analysis. So you'll have your product inventory and you can compare it against who's online and say, well, we've got 100 products for sale. You're only selling 20. So when the sales rep goes in, he can say, well, you've got all of these other products you need to stock and sell. Yeah. And if one goes out of stock, they get alerted, so send the sales guys in, replenish and make sure that the products are sort of for sale everywhere.
And you actually had it used against you the other day.
I did, yeah. So someone's using our product and they did a report on Pricemaster and sent it to me and said, I can see that you don't have this in stock. Can you please buy it?
Yeah.
which is great. Yeah. And to be fair, we placed the order.
It's the concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we also can't manage like that many brands that we're dealing with all the time, every day. So to have that information back to us to say, yeah, thanks, we'll put the order in.
Without thinking about
exactly.
it.
So if everyone had it, it would make everyone's life a bit easier, to be fair. Yeah.
So that's a very long-winded answer, but brand is sort of like released, but the retail side is coming very like a week or two or so.
So Ed's mid getting it set up on Shopify at the Shopify App Store. As soon as that's available to download, we should be off.
So we don't have a launch date yet.
We're hoping a couple of weeks.
It's like last week, wasn't it?
We did. Yeah, it's supposed to be last week.
Moving forward, I imagine.
Yeah,
but bespoke, tomorrow you could onboard a new customer on Magento.
Oh, we could. If we did it manually, we could do it. We're just trying to do this.
We're trying to set it up for for push of a button. We don't have to get too involved. It's all automated.
It goes back to that thinking of we want it to be in the hands of everybody all at once.
And the scalability.
Exactly.
So if we had to onboard every person, it would be a bit of a nightmare. But Ed's created something that will, pull their products in, find their competitors, set up their min margin, set up their rules, and then it's off to theirs.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should be quite proud of ourselves with how lean the team is that is developed behind this and everything else that goes with it at the moment. So we've got it to this point.
It's impressive.
That hopefully it flies off the shelves, so to speak, and then there's all the money to throw at loads more people.
Because we've got a million other ideas on how to integrate stuff into this.
No, there's so many more things that we're going to be
doing. Too many ideas.
People keep on doing these podcasts and Reed keeps on listening to them. So they have more and more ideas.
More and more problems.
And then he drags literally the three critical people up here to come and do a podcast. Whereas I could have spent half a day back in the office and we'd have had shitloads more done.
Yeah. Launch date is one day after it should have been,